the scent of the grave flower. The first mistake was thinking it was beautiful. The second was bringing it home. It rests on the teakwood nightstand beside my head, a tarnished silver amulet that seems to drink the weak moonlight filtering through the window. It's heavier than it looks, dense with age and secrets. When I picked it up from the dust of that forgotten temple, it was warm from the sun. Now it's a cold, heavy void in the humid air of my grandmother's bedroom, a tiny, perfect anchor of dread. Outside, the world is a symphony of life. The rhythmic chirping of geckos, the distant hum of insects, the rustle of palm fronds in the gentle night breeze. This is the sound of peace, the sound of my childhood, the sound I came back from the noise of Phnom Penh to find. It's the sound of safety. Until it stops. The silence that falls is not empty. It's heavy, suffocating like a blanket thrown over the world. Every gecko, every cicada, every living thing holds its breath, waiting. And in that thick, expectant quiet, a new sound begins. Drip. It's the sound of a single, heavy drop of water hitting a broad banana leaf. Drip. I sit up, my skin slick with sweat that has nothing to do with the Cambodian heat. I look out the window. The sky is perfectly clear, a sweep of indigo velvet pricked with 1,000 stars. There are no clouds, no threat of rain. Drip. The sound is impossibly close, just outside my window. Rhythmic, patient, unchanging. It's a sound that has no right to exist. Then comes the smell. It creeps through the mosquito netting that shrouds my bed, a cloying sweetness that smothers the familiar, comforting scent of the incense my grandmother burns every evening. It smells of overripe mangoes, the kind that have split open on the ground and begun to ferment in the heat. And something else, something floral and funereal, the scent of frangipani blossoms laid upon a grave. It's a thick, syrupy smell that coats the back of my throat. My heart begins a frantic, stuttering rhythm against my ribs. I try to listen for my grandmother's soft breathing from the other room, but all I can hear is the blood roaring in my ears and that one maddening sound. Drip. And then another sound joins it, a sound from directly below. Our house, like all the houses in our village, is built on stilts, lifting us a few meters above the damp earth and the reach of the floodwaters. The space beneath is for storage, for chickens to scratch in the dirt, for the cool air to circulate. It's a space I've played in 1,000 times as a boy. Now, it is the source of a sound that makes the fine hairs on my arms stand on end. It's a soft, wet scraping, like something heavy and damp being dragged slowly, deliberately through the mud and fallen leaves. Scrap, pause, scrap. It moves with the same patient rhythm as the dripping water. It's getting closer. My gaze, wide with a primal fear I haven't felt since I was a child afraid of the dark, falls back to the amulet on the nightstand. In the gloom, the intricate, swirling carvings of vines and forgotten deities seem to writhe, to shift. It no longer looks beautiful. It looks like a lock, a key, a signpost. It is not an object of protection. I understand this with a sudden, gut-wrenching certainty. It is a beacon. The scraping stops directly beneath me. The dripping sound is now right beside my ear. The world is utterly silent, save for those two impossible things. I hold my breath, listening to the frantic drumming of my own heart, and I wait for the next sound. I know, with a certainty that freezes the marrow in my bones, that the next sound will be on the wooden stairs leading up to my door. I squeeze my eyes shut and pray to ancestors I have long neglected. But the sweet, cloying smell of decay tells me that whatever is outside, it has no interest in my prayers. It has followed the scent of silver. It has followed me. Morning came, as it always does, with the aggressive crowing of the neighbor's rooster. The sun, hot and white, burned away the shadows and the impossible sounds of the night. I sat on the edge of my bed for a long time, my body trembling with the memory of fear, staring at the silver amulet. In the harsh light of day, it was just an old piece of metal again. The carvings were static, the surface dull. Was it a dream? a fever brought on by the oppressive heat and the change of environment. I wanted to believe it. I needed to believe it. I stumbled out of my room. My grandmother, my Yi, was already up, tending to the small charcoal stove on the veranda. The smell of boiling rice and grilling fish filled the air, a wholesome, grounding scent that fought back against the phantom sweetness in my memory. She looked at me, her face, a beautiful road map of wrinkles creased with concern. "Rith Kun," she said, her voice soft. "You look pale. Did you not sleep well?" I wanted to tell her. I wanted to pour out the whole terrifying story, the silence, the dripping, the scraping sound from beneath our home. But how could I? I was a man from the city now, a man who worked with computers and believed in logic. I couldn't tell my 80-year-old grandmother that I was being haunted by a nightmare. "Just a bad dream, Yi," I lied, forcing a smile. "The quiet of the countryside takes some getting used to after Phnom Penh." She just nodded slowly, her dark eyes holding mine a moment too long. She didn't believe me. She turned and sprinkled some salt into the corners of the veranda, a small, almost unconscious gesture of warding. I spent the day forcing myself into a routine. I helped Yi mend a fishing net, my fingers clumsy compared to her deft, practiced movements. I fed the chickens. I walked to the village market to buy palm sugar and tamarind. I tried to immerse myself in the mundane, to sweat out the fear under the afternoon sun. Everyone was friendly, as always. The noodle seller greeted me with a wide smile. The old men playing chess under the banyan tree nodded in my direction, but I couldn't shake a feeling of being watched, a sense that their smiles didn't quite reach their eyes, or maybe I was just projecting my own paranoia onto them. That afternoon, I decided to retrace my steps. I needed to prove to myself that the source of my fear was just a place, just a pile of old stones. I took my moto and drove out of the village, down the dusty red road that led deeper into the countryside. The place I'd found the amulet wasn't a famous temple like Angkor Wat. It was one of the hundreds of smaller, forgotten satellite temples that dot the landscape, slowly being swallowed by the jungle. The locals called it Banti Esre Kruplik, the citadel of the cursed woman, a name I dismissed as simple folklore. As I got closer, the air grew still and heavy again. The jungle pressed in on both sides of the path, a wall of green so dense it seemed to suck the sound from the air. I parked my moto and walked the rest of the way. The ruins were just as I remembered them. A collapsed gallery, a few headless statues of devas, and a central tower, choked with the thick, muscular roots of a strangler fig. It was here, at the base of the tower, half buried in the dirt and leaves, that I had found it. I knelt down, touching the spot. It was just cool earth, nothing sinister. I looked up at the stone carvings on the tower. Apsaras danced, their stone faces serene. But below them, a different set of carvings, cruder and more weathered, depicted scenes of punishment. A figure, clearly a woman, being bound and thrown into a well. In every panel, she clutched a single, ornate object. It was hard to make out, but the shape was unmistakable. It was the amulet. A chill ran down my spine despite the crushing heat. This wasn't just a piece of jewelry. It was part of a story, a warning. As I stood to leave, my foot snagged on a root. I stumbled, catching myself against the stone wall. My hand landed on a patch of moss. It came away slick and wet, though it hadn't rained in weeks. And from the damp spot on the stone, a smell arose, faint but undeniable. The sweet, nauseating scent of overripe mangoes and grave flowers. I scrambled back, my heart pounding. I fled the ruins, not looking back, the jungle seeming to reach for me with its thorny vines. I drove back to the village faster than I should have, the red dust chasing me like a vengeful spirit. That night, I didn't even try to pretend it was a dream. I placed a chair against my bedroom door. I lit extra incense sticks, filling the room with a thick gray smoke that made my eyes water. I sat on my bed, cross-legged, the amulet on the nightstand beside me. I refused to touch it. I would face this awake. I would prove it was just my mind playing tricks. The symphony of the night began its usual chorus. For an hour, nothing happened. Then, too, my eyelids grew heavy. Maybe I thought maybe it was just a one-time thing. Maybe my visit to the temple had satisfied whatever lingering energy was there. Then the geckos fell silent. The silence crashed down, absolute and terrifying. My breath caught in my throat. Drip. It was back from just outside the window, slow, deliberate. Drip. I forced myself to stay calm, to breathe. It's just a sound. It cannot hurt you. Then the smell came, stronger this time. A wave of putrid sweetness that felt like it was trying to suffocate me. And then the scraping. It wasn't under the house anymore. Scrap. It was on the veranda, just outside the thin wooden walls of the house. Scrap. It was a wet, dragging sound, the sound of waterlogged wood or flesh being pulled across the floorboards. It was slow, agonizingly slow, moving from the top of the stairs towards the front of the house, towards my grandmother's room. A jolt of pure terror shot through me, colder than any fear for myself. Yee. I shot off the bed, my mind screaming. I fumbled for the door handle, forgetting about the chair I'd wedged underneath it. It wouldn't budge. I threw my shoulder against the door, grunting with effort. The wood groaned. Outside, the scraping stopped. It stopped right in front of my grandmother's door. A new sound started. A soft, wet, fumbling noise, like wet fingers trying to find purchase on the wood of her door. A gentle, persistent scratching. Yee, I yelled, my voice cracking. I slammed my body against my door again and again. Yee, are you all right? Silence. The scratching stopped. For a moment, I thought maybe I had scared it away. Then I heard my grandmother's voice, thin and trembling from the other side of her door. Who was there? She asked. And another voice answered, a voice that should not have been possible. It was a wet, gurgling whisper, like words being spoken through a throat full of water, and it sounded exactly like me. It's me, Yee, the voice whispered. It's Rith, let me in. My blood turned to ice. I stopped pushing, my back pressed against the door, my entire body shaking uncontrollably. Rith is in his room, my grandmother said, her voice firmer now, laced with an ancient authority. I know the prayers, I know the wards. You are not welcome in this house, thing of the swamp. Go back to your stone prison. There was a long, terrible silence. The air grew cold. I could feel a malevolent pressure building against the very walls of the house. Then a shriek, a sound of pure rage and frustration that was not human. It was high and piercing, like nails on stone, but wet, bubbling. It came from right outside my door, and then it receded, the scraping sound returning, dragging itself away from my grandmother's room, back across the veranda. It came to my door, and it stopped. The dripping sound was in my room now. I could hear it right behind me. Drip, drip, drip. I didn't dare turn around. I kept my eyes fixed on the door, where a dark, wet patch was slowly spreading under the crack at the bottom. The sweet smell of decay was overwhelming, a physical presence in the room. A soft, wet scratching started on my door, gentle, almost curious. And the watery voice whispered my name, Rith. I stayed like that for what felt like an eternity, frozen, listening to the scratching and the whispering and the dripping, until the first hint of dawn painted the sky, and the sounds finally, mercifully, faded away. I didn't open my door until the sun was fully in the sky. When I did, Yee was standing there, her face pale and drawn. In her hands, she held a bowl of lustral water and a string of jasmine flowers. She didn't say a word. She just walked past me into my room, chanting a prayer I didn't recognize, and sprinkled the water in every corner. Her eyes fell on the amulet on the nightstand, and she flinched as if struck. Kun, she said, her voice a low, urgent whisper. Where did you get this? I told her everything. The forgotten temple, the carvings, the feeling I had when I picked it up. As I spoke, her face grew grayer, the lines of worry deepening into canyons of fear. She sat me down, her old, frail hands gripping mine tightly. "The Banti Esray Kruplik," she said, her voice barely audible. "We are forbidden to go there. The story is not just folklore, Rith. It is a memory." She told me the legend as it had been passed down to her. Generations ago, during a time of great turmoil and war, a princess of a minor kingdom was entrusted with the last of her people's treasury: gold, jewels, and sacred artifacts. Fleeing from an invading army, she made a pact with a dark spirit of the earth to protect the treasure. In exchange for its power, she promised it a guardian. But she betrayed her own people. She led them into an ambush where they were slaughtered so that no one else would know the location of the hidden wealth. When the dark spirit came to claim its due, she offered it the souls of her murdered kinsmen. But the spirit was not satisfied. It had been promised a guardian bound by blood and betrayal, and it was her own blood, her own betrayal, that it craved. They executed her on that spot. They bound her with curses and drowned her in a sacred well, her spirit forever tied to the treasure she sought to protect. But her greed and treachery had twisted her. She did not become a noble guardian. She became a thing of hunger, a Kmoch Tuk Sluk, the ghost of the wet leaf. She is drawn to the damp, the dark, and the scent of decay. "The treasure was never found," Yi finished, her voice trembling. "They say she guards it still, dragging her drowned body through the earth. But what she guards, she also uses as bait. The amulet." She looked at the silver object with pure horror. "It is not part of the treasure, it is her lure. A piece of her curse she leaves behind for a greedy fool to pick up. It doesn't ward her off. It calls to her. It tells her where you are. It marks you as her new treasure, something to be guarded, to be possessed, to be kept in the dark and the damp, forever." The pieces clicked into place, forming a picture of absolute horror. The wetness, the drowning, the thing dragging itself from its watery grave. It wasn't just haunting me, it was claiming me. My grandmother's wards had protected the house for one night, but the thing was patient. It was bound to me, not the place. "You must take it back," Yi said, her eyes pleading. "Tonight, you must put it back where you found it. Beg for forgiveness. It is the only way." I knew she was right, but the thought of going back to that place in the dark, with the knowledge of what was waiting for me, what was actively hunting me, it was a thought that threatened to shatter my sanity. But the image of that thing scratching at my grandmother's door, whispering with my voice, gave me a strength I didn't know I possessed. I would not let it harm her. I had brought this curse to her doorstep. I had to be the one to take it away. As dusk began to settle, painting the sky in shades of bruised purple and orange, I prepared. Yi gave me a small krama, a scarf, woven with protective symbols and soaked in her lustral water. She tied it around my wrist. "Do not run, Rith," she warned, her hand shaking as she touched my cheek. "Show it you are not afraid. Show it you respect the spirits. Place the amulet down and walk away. Do not look back. No matter what you hear, do not look back." I took the amulet. As my fingers closed around it, it felt colder than ever, and for a fleeting moment, I thought I heard a faint, triumphant whisper sigh from its silver surface. The journey back to the temple was the longest of my life. Every rustle of leaves was the start of its scraping. Every shadow was its formless shape. The jungle, which had been a place of childhood adventure, was now a labyrinth of fear. I reached the crumbling stone tower as the last light of the sun died. The ruins were plunged into a profound darkness, a gloom so thick it felt like I was wading through black water. The air was cold and smelled of wet earth and dying flowers. I could feel it was here, watching, waiting. My hands trembling, I knelt at the base of the tower, at the exact spot where I had found the amulet. I cleared the leaves away, my heart hammering against my ribs so hard I thought it would break. I held the amulet out. "I am returning what is yours," I said, my voice shaking, trying to project a calm I did not feel. "I meant no disrespect. I ask for your forgiveness. Please release me from this curse." A sudden silence fell, deeper than any before. The air crackled with energy. And then the dripping started. Drip. It was coming from the dark, gaping maw of the collapsed well a few meters away. Drip, drip. I placed the amulet on the ground on the cool earth. A wave of relief washed over me. It was done. I just had to walk away. Don't look back, Yi had said. But as my fingers left the silver, the metal didn't stay on the ground. It floated, suspended in the air for a moment before zipping back into my hand, clamping onto my palm with an unnatural cold that burned. I cried out and tried to drop it, but my fingers wouldn't obey. It was stuck to me, fused to my skin. A low, gurgling chuckle echoed from the well. It was a sound of ancient, cruel amusement. Then the scraping began, not from the well, but from all around me. It was coming from the trees, from the shadows between the stones, from the very earth beneath my feet. It was never just one thing. From the darkness, shapes began to resolve. Vague, humanoid silhouettes dripping with black water and river mud. They were the bodies of the betrayed, the slaughtered villagers, their eyes empty sockets, their mouths open in silent screams. They were her guardians, her collection, and they were surrounding me. I stumbled backward, my back hitting the cold stone of the tower. The amulet in my hand pulsed with a faint, sickly green light, a beacon in the oppressive dark, a beacon for them. My grandmother was wrong. Returning it was never an option. You cannot return a lure once the fish has taken the bait. The curse wasn't in the amulet. The amulet was just the key that unlocked the cage, and my greed had turned that key. From the center of the circle of dripping bodies, a new shape emerged, dragging itself forward. It was larger, the source of the primary scraping sound. It was the form of a woman, but twisted, her limbs elongated and bent at unnatural angles, as if they'd been broken over and over. Her long, black hair was matted with mud and weeds, and it clung to a face I couldn't fully see, a face hidden in a shifting shroud of shadow and dripping water. She lifted a hand, and the wet, fumbling sound I'd heard at my grandmother's door was the sound of her long, broken fingers scraping against each other. The cloying smell of rot and grave flowers washed over me, a physical blow that made me gag. This was her, the Kmoch Tuk Sluk, the cursed woman. And she was not here to take her amulet back. She was here to claim the hand that had touched it. Yi's other words echoed in my head. Do not run. But respect was no longer an option. Survival was the only instinct left. I screamed, a raw animal sound of pure terror, and I bolted. I pushed through the circle of silent, dripping figures. Touching them was like plunging my arms into freezing mud. They didn't try to stop me, they simply watched me go. I ran through the jungle, blind branches whipping at my face, thorns tearing at my clothes. Behind me, I could hear it. The relentless, wet scraping. It wasn't fast, but it was steady. It never tired. It was the sound of inevitable death. I could hear the dripping, the gurgling whispers of my own name on the wind. The amulet on my palm burned with cold, a homing device I could not discard. It was leading her right to me. I don't know how I made it back to the village. I collapsed at the edge of the first rice paddy, my lungs on fire, my body covered in 1,000 cuts. I lay there, sobbing, until the first farmers found me at dawn. That was 6 months ago. I am back in Phnom Penh now. I live on the 7th floor of a modern apartment building. I surround myself with noise and light. The constant roar of traffic, the blaring music from the bars below, the chatter of 1 million people. I thought, in the chaos of the city, I could drown out the silence. I thought that 7 floors of concrete and steel could keep me safe from something that crawls from the damp earth. For a while, it worked. I told myself it was over. I had escaped. The amulet, I had finally pried it from my hand with a knife, leaving a scar on my palm in the shape of its carvings. I threw it in the Mekong, hoping the great river would carry it away, would cleanse it. But a curse is not so easily discarded. Sometimes, late at night, when the city quiets to a low hum, I feel it. A phantom coldness in my scarred palm. I see a dark, wet patch spread on the ceiling, even though the apartment above is empty. Tonight, it's worse. I was working late, and as I walked back to my apartment, I saw that the mangoes on the street vendor's cart were all split and rotting, covered in flies, their sickly sweet smell hanging in the air. Now I am in my bed. The city hums outside my window, but a few minutes ago, something changed. The gecko that lives on my balcony, the one that chirps every single night, has fallen silent. The silence is spreading. The distant sounds of traffic seem to be fading, as if a great weight is pressing down on the city. My heart is starting to pound. My eyes are locked on my apartment door. Then I hear it. Faint but clear, from the tiled hallway outside my door. Drip. It's a sound that has no right to be here, not on the 7th floor of a dry, air-conditioned building. Drip. I can smell it now, a faint, cloying sweetness creeping under my door, the scent of overripe mangoes, the scent of grave flowers. Then the other sound begins. It's soft, barely audible over the frantic beating of my own heart, but I know that sound. I will hear it in my nightmares for the rest of my life, however short that may be. It's a soft, wet scraping. It's in the hallway, and it's dragging itself towards my door. It has found me. She has found me. So let me give you a piece of advice, you who are listening to my story. If you ever find yourself walking among the old, forgotten places of my country, among the temples the jungle is reclaiming, and you see something beautiful glinting in the dust, leave it be. Some things are not meant to be found. Some treasures are not treasure at all. They are lures. And some doors are not meant to keep things out. They are only there to tell you how close they're getting. The scraping has stopped. It's right outside my door now, and I hear a new sound. A soft, wet fumbling at the lock.